Well, that was an interesting end of the week. The stock market's closing in the negative yet again. Second day in a row they've been falling. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fall 424 points, which puts it below the 24,000 mark and right back in correction territory. Even though I don't think we're in a correction, I think we've already entered a bear market when it comes to U.S. stocks. But they were reporting that this is one of the worst weeks for stocks since January 2016. And we have to remember that January 2016 was bad because in December of 2015 we had our very first Fed rate hike, which is similar to the rate hike we just had 2 days ago. And just like 2016, the markets reacted the exact same way by falling. In conjunction with Trump's economic warfare rhetoric by imposing tariffs on China and other countries, even though it's our own fault that our economy is so bad through all these rules and regulations and all this government spending. But why follow reality when you can just blame other people? But today, even though stocks were falling, you still have people that were completely optimistic. They were just so unnaturally bullish. You had a CNBC article come out today telling people that they shouldn't be worried, that even though Q1 GDP looks like it's going to be weak and the stocks are going down, they shouldn't be worried because times are going to get better. Better days are yet to come, and they're going to come as the year goes on. Even though I think that's completely ridiculous because these are the exact same dummies that just over a month and a half ago were telling people that this is one of the worst starts to the year for not only stocks but the dollar since 1987, which what happened in 1987 was Black Monday, where on October 16th, you had the Dow Jones Industrial Average fall 23% in a single day, ushering one of the worst recessions since the Great Depression. Even though the 2008 recession replaced that recession as the worst. But people were still just completely bullish. There was nothing to worry about, even though another similar thing between 1987 and 2018 is the exploding trade deficits. But, nothing to be worried about. But what's also crazy is that even though everyone is bullish, a lot of the heavy hitters aren't bullish. You had the Atlanta Fed come out today saying that they expect Q1 GDP to again be 1.8. Bank of America dropped from 2.3 to 1.7. UBS went to 1.4. JP Morgan went from 2.5 to 2. And Goldman Sachs went from 2 to 1.8. So a lot of the heavy hitters are not very bullish on what Q1 GDP growth is going to be. And if Q1 is going to be bad, what reason is there for Q2, 3, or 4 to be any better? But regardless, everyone's still happy. Even though even the tech stocks were getting a beating. Facebook today was down 13%. It's back below 160 on its stock. It's one of the worst weeks for Facebook since 2012. But nothing to worried about. Even though another thing to be worried about today is Trump's signing of this giant 1.3 trillion omnibus bill that's just full of complete insanity and increasing in government spending. They had a I think $70 billion increase for the Department of Defense, even though the Department of Defense doesn't need any extra money. I'm not sure. I'm not even sure why they're getting it, but naturally we got to keep the military industrial complex well fed. What's also worrying about that is this person that Trump has appointed to replace McMaster's, John Bolton. This person is obviously a neocon. He's just ready to wage war. He's probably going to help Trump start a war for no apparent reason. I was looking into the history of this guy. He's a known war hawk. He's recommended the idea of regime changes in Iran and North Korea, which would be disastrous. He still, even to this day, supports the Iraq War. He's one of the helpers that lied about the weapons of mass destruction. And he supported the regime changes in Syria and Libya, even though we've done more damages to Syria and Libya before we went there. Libya has open air slave markets. Syria's been destroyed. But naturally, you're gonna put in this person, and I think he's incredibly dangerous. I think Trump should get rid of him. I'm hoping he doesn't last very long because a lot of Trump's people like revolving doors, but this person, he's obviously well liked by people. Well, not people, all the neocons, and I don't consider them people. I just consider them giant puppets. But I think is incredibly dangerous because war would be one of the worst things to have right now. Our economy is already terrible. But I'm sure all the Keynesians out there are probably happy about it because increased government spending is how to fix things. even though we already have a too big a budget for the military and for everything else, because they also increase welfare spending. But hopefully that changes, because I don't think last long enough. Because hopefully by October, with the amount of bonds we're going to be selling, that really cripples the bond market, and it's going to have to force the government to start cutting a lot of things, or they cannot cut things. And during the 2018 midterm elections, everyone's gonna vote in some socialists, and they're gonna completely destroy everything, which it's completely obvious that might happen. The American people have no idea what's coming. They're gonna blame this recession on the tax cuts, or the increased spending, even though this recession was gonna happen regardless. Nothing could stop it. But I mean, hopefully, who knows? And another thing that's worrying is today is that China came out saying that they came out with a list of 123 possible choices of what they could put tariffs on. Some examples that came out were apparently soybeans and pork. But what was even more dangerous is that one of the Chinese officials came out saying that they were going to stop, or I guess slow down, of buying of U.S. bonds, which would be disastrous, because China is one of the biggest buyers of our bonds. For some illogical reason, I think China would be better off not buying our bonds and just letting the U.S. collapse. It'd be great. It'd be great for them, because the Chinese could just buy more of their own stuff, and it'll help their own economy, instead of giving money to us to buy their own stuff, and we're just giving to them useless dollars, because we don't actually make anything that's worthwhile to anybody. But what would be even worse is that if China came out and saying they're going to sell their bonds, or they demanded the money back on their bonds, I mean, we can't pay for that. We have so much debt, and the amount of debt we have, it'll destroy everything. Because we have to remember, when you look at debt, you have to not just look at the national debt, but you have to look at the all the debt held by public, and all the unfunded liabilities. And together, I think America has like $200 trillion worth of debt. Like we're the poorest nation on the planet. Which is funny, because as the stock market was falling, people were rushing into bonds, because apparently bonds are the new safe haven. The bonds are just as dangerous as stocks. The bond market is just a gigantic bubble. It's been artificially bid up by quantitative easing and 0% interest rates, and all, by not just the Federal Reserve, but other central banks. Because all the central banks are also buying things. Like Switzerland is one of the biggest shareholders. The Swiss central bank is one of the biggest shareholders of Apple, for some reason. Instead of having the Swiss dollar go up in value, the Swiss central bank rather just buy stocks in an overvalued company that isn't actually performing well either. I mean, I think a lot of the people should stay away from the FANG stocks, and they're all overvalued. They're all toxic. I think people should sell their shares in them and move to more stable things, like emerging market stocks or gold stocks. And gold's gonna break out one of these days. It was touching 1350, and once it crosses 1350, I mean, there's nothing but air above that. I mean, it can go to 1400 real quick, and then from 1400 it can go to 1500, maybe in a couple of days, or I mean a month at least. And there's nothing stopping it. And another thing that's gonna be good for gold is when the dollar starts really going down. I mean, gold's gonna go through the roof. I mean, I haven't bought any gold stocks yet, but it's on my hit list. But I think it's to close out this podcast by talking about the cult of Bitcoin. They actually came out with an article from CNBC saying that apparently 20% of students are using their student loans to buy Bitcoin or invest in the casino of cryptocurrencies, which I think is completely crazy, because student loan debt in America is already 1.5 trillion, and it's only going to get worse. I think what the government has done to these kids, a lot of them are 18, 19, 20-year-olds. They don't know anything about anything. They don't even understand what money is. They're just taking out these loans for useless degrees. They don't mean anything. I mean, I'm in school now, and I've met people that are getting degrees in business. They don't even know They don't even barely understand what a business is. I think what the government has done is completely immoral. It's borderline indentured. It is technically slavery. The people have put themselves in indentured servitude, even though our Constitution says there should be no indentured servitude. The government's gone and done it anyway. But I think I think it's only gonna get worse. I was actually spent a couple days watching YouTube videos of people talking about their student loans, and some people were actually calculating the fact that by the time they die, they will have paid off their student loans. And actually, some people were saying that by the time they die, they won't even have paid off their student loans. They're just gonna pass on to somebody else. Because if you don't pay your student loan, then the taxpayer has to pick up the slack. So I think a lot of this debt is gonna come back at us, gonna hit us. It's gonna hit the American people really hard because we've made a lot of mistakes over the years, and things are only going to get worse. And with that, I guess we'll see what happens next week when U.S. stock markets open again on Monday. Could gold go up again on Monday? Hopefully.